In folklore, a werewolf is an individual who can shape-shift into a wolf or wolf-like creature, either purposely or after being placed under a curse or affliction. Werewolves are created through a bite or a scratch from another werewolf. Transformation into a werewolf usually occurs on the night of a full moon. The works of Augustine of Hippo had a large influence on the development of Western Christianity, and were widely read by churchmen of the medieval period. These churchmen occasionally discussed werewolves in their works. In The City of God, Augustine of Hippo states that, "It is very generally believed that by certain witches' spells men may be turned into wolves." Germanic pagan traditions associated with wolf men persisted longest in the Scandinavian Viking Age. Harold I of Norway is known to have had a body of Ulfhidnar, wolf-coated men, which are mentioned in the Volsunga saga and resemble some werewolf legends. The Ulfhidnar were fighters similar to the berserkers, though they dressed in wolf hides rather than those of bears, and were reputed to channel the spirits of these animals to enhance effectiveness in battle. These warriors were resistant to pain and killed viciously in battle, much like wild animals. The werewolf is a common concept in European folklore, existing in many variants, which are related by a common development of a Christian interpretation of underlying European folklore. From the early modern period, werewolf beliefs also spread to the New World with colonialism. Belief in werewolves developed in parallel to the belief in witches in the course of the late Middle Ages and the early modern period. Like the witchcraft trials as a whole, the trial of supposed werewolves emerged in what is now Switzerland in the early 15th century and spread throughout Europe in the 16th. The persecution of werewolves and the associated folklore is an integral part of the witch hunt phenomenon, albeit a marginal one. Accusations of lycanthropy being involved in only a small fraction of witchcraft trials. During the early period, accusations of lycanthropy, transformation into a wolf, were mixed with accusations of wolf riding or wolf charming. The case of Peter Stump in 1589 led to a significant peak in both interest and in persecution of supposed werewolves. The phenomenon persisted longest in Bavaria and Austria, with persecution of wolf charmers recorded until well after 1650, the final cases taking place in the early 18th century. Peter Stump was a German farmer and alleged serial killer, accused of werewolfery, witchcraft, and cannibalism. He was known as the Werewolf of Bedburg. Stump confessed to having practiced black magic since he was 12 years old. He claimed that the devil had given him a magical belt or girdle, which enabled him to metamorphose into the likeness of a greedy, devouring wolf, strong and mighty, with eyes great and large, which in the night sparkled like fire, a mouth great and wide, with most sharp and cruel teeth, a huge body and mighty paws. Removing the belt, he said, made him transform back to his human form. After his capture, he told the local magistrate he had left the girdle in a certain valley. The magistrate sent for it to be retrieved, but no such belt was ever found. Stump confessed to killing and eating 14 children, 2 pregnant women. One of the 14 children was his own son. Allegedly, he went out with his son into the woods, transformed into the likeness of a wolf, and devoured him. Common Turkic folklore holds a different, reverential light to the werewolf legends in that Turkic Central Asian shamans, after performing long and arduous rites, would voluntarily be able to transform into the humanoid Kurt Adam. Since the wolf was the totemic ancestor animal of the Turkic peoples, they would be respectful of any shaman who was in such a form. Werewolves were said in European folklore to bear telltale physical traits even in their human form. These included the meeting of both eyebrows at the bridge of the nose, curved fingernails, low-set ears, and a swinging stride. One method of identifying a werewolf in its human form was to cut the flesh of the accused, under the pretense that fur would be seen within the wound. A Russian superstition recalls a werewolf can be recognized by bristles under the tongue. Various methods for becoming a werewolf have been reported, one of the simplest being the removal of clothing and putting on a belt made of wolfskin, probably as a substitute for an entire animal skin. In other cases, the body is rubbed with a magic salve. Drinking rainwater out of the footprint of the animal in question or from certain enchanted streams were also considered effectual modes of accomplishing metamorphosis. In medieval Europe, traditionally, there are 3 methods one can use to cure a victim of lycanthropy: medicinally, surgically, or by exorcism. However, many of the cures advocated by medieval medical practitioners proved fatal to the patients. A Sicilian belief of Arabic origin holds that a werewolf can be cured of its ailment by striking it on the forehead or scalp with a knife. Another belief from the same culture involves the piercing of the werewolf's hands with nails. Sometimes, less extreme methods were used. In the German lowland of Schleswig-Holstein, a werewolf could be cured if one were to simply address it 3 times by its Christian name, while one Danish belief holds that merely scolding a werewolf will cure it. Most modern fiction describes werewolves as vulnerable to silver weapons and highly resistant to other injuries. This feature appears in German folklore of the 19th century. In Dracula's Guest, a band of military horsemen coming to the aid of the protagonist chase off Dracula, depicted as a great wolf stating the only way to kill it is by a sacred bullet. The first feature film to use an anthropomorphic werewolf was Werewolf of London in 1935. The main werewolf of this film is a dapper London scientist who retains some of his style, and most of his human features after his transformation, as lead actor Henry Hull was unwilling to spend long hours being made up. The concept of the werewolf has become part of the horror and fantasy genre of popular culture, and continues to inspire fear and wonder in modern audiences.